Good afternoon, everybody. You're very welcome to the finest expert learning session in the building in the last 2 days. This is the Oil and Gas and Petrochemical session.
Your sessions and tours should begin now.
You won't be surprised to learn that we're going to talk about digitization. We're going to focus the discussion. We're going to focus the discussion around integration of process and power, but we're going to tackle really the overall theme of how we make digitization work for our industry. I'm really pleased to be joined by 3 of our colleagues and customers from across the region, and they'll introduce themselves. They have a short introduction, so just for now we have Maurizio Fumagalli from E&I. Thank you, sir. We have Nuno Garrido, who's from GALP and leads the refining digitization, and then Alisa Melnikova from Sibur, who's the Chief Digital Officer for Sibur. So a pleasure to have them, and I'll mostly let them give you their thoughts rather than mine. So I think, as you probably sense, we live in interesting times. We have immense existential pressures and opportunities on our industry, starting with security, as we've seen this month in Saudi Arabia, with sustainability and the enormous challenges that brings, with single-use plastics and the circular economy driving substantial change, and the change in the fuels. So the change in fuel mix, the coming of electrification, those together represent significant challenges for oil and gas. And then we have, on the other hand, significant changes in technology around digitization that give us the potential to do completely different things and to change the way we run our industry. And we've seen digitization transform industries such as banking, retail, and make it almost unrecognizably different to the one we had before. I think oil and gas and petrochemical is yet to see the change on that scale. Maybe it won't, maybe we're different, but we have the opportunity here to bring those technologies to maybe help us address some of these challenges. So, how big is it? Well, here's an opinion, or the opinion of people surveyed by Accenture this year, and 64% of executives surveyed said that the failure to leverage digital transformation would lead to a struggle to survive. I mean, not less profitable, but a struggle of survival itself. So quite dramatic, 2/3 of executives. And yet, 22% of industrial companies see digitization projects delivering the same or better than they expected. So, in synthesis, it's a huge issue around survival of their industry, and yet we're not yet sure how to make it successful. So I think part of our discussion today is, what do you digitize, how, and how do you transform? And I think we're going to find in the dialogue that the transformation is more challenging than the digital. Maybe the change in people and behaviors might be more difficult. So if we focus a little more on the world that we live in, which is operations and assets, upstream, midstream, downstream, petrochemical, I think today we're already measuring a lot. So across an asset, we looked recently at an FPSO, a floating production platform, typically measuring 10,000 data points a second already. So we're not short of data, I would suggest, and the oil and gas and petrochemical industry has been fairly technologically advanced for some while. And probably the challenge for us is here, what data to integrate, what to do with that data to bring actionable insight and change, rather than what do I measure. Now there's going to be more things to measure, but it's the challenge of how you bring that to make decisions and make quicker decisions and make better decisions. One of the things that Schneider has done to try and move this forward is our investment in AVEVA. You see AVEVA here joining Schneider at the Innovation Summit. AVEVA is a daughter company of Schneider, majority owned but not wholly owned, and separate so we can get a fast-moving, agile digital software company inside the Schneider family, but quick enough and separate enough to really move and take full advantage. This is connected to Schneider's architecture, and so we try to bring that to drive digitization quicker, but to keep the flow of information. And then maybe to frame the specific challenge for today, Schneider believes that there's real benefit to be gained in bringing together the power and the process. So if I take here this fractionating column as an example, on the power side, power management, Schneider systems or other are managing the power that drives motors, that drives pumps, that drives fans, that moves the hydrocarbons through. And by measuring that, you start to understand the performance of the assets as well. How hard is this pump working? How is it performing? How is it on its performance trajectory? In parallel but separately, we're measuring process systems, temperatures, flows, pressures, the chemistry, the composition. And yet it's the same asset and the same performance, and our philosophy or our hypothesis says, what if you bring those together? And it's not just about bringing digital data together, although that's maybe the easier piece. It's about saying, how do you bring those cultures together? How do you bring that engineering together? And if you did, what's the benefit? So we're starting to do some work on that. We'll get some opinions from the industry here of whether they see value and whether they see the challenges. And I think for a lot of us, is the destination worth the journey? You know, which direction are we heading, and how do I know before I leave that the destination is going to be where I want to be, right? Maybe the other way around then, is the gain worth the pain? So how do you drive this on? Just a few thoughts to start for me. I'm going to pass now to my three guests to introduce themselves, their companies and their digital vision, and then we'll start the dialogue. So let me pass over to Nuno.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for still being here for the last session of the day. So I'm the digital transformation lead at GALP. Maybe the future name of my job will be the digital champion, because digital is transforming the business, but also our job. So I don't know that it will be renamed in the future. I will quickly introduce you GALP. This is my suite number 1, and this is my suite number 2. So this is a daily job in the refinery. GALP is an integrated energy player, mostly in the Iberian market. We have upstream in the Americas and Africa, and the downstream activity mostly in Europe. I would like to stop by to this slide and more than show you how many people work in my company, how many of us work in Portugal, abroad or so. I would like that to be focused on this, because for me this is the main challenge for the digital transformation, the people. So the energy business, or the oil and gas business, started many, many years ago, and we have several generations working together. And for me, this is the bottleneck of the digital transformation, because we can have technology, we can see plenty of technology in this room, but then how can people use it on a daily basis? For me, the change management is the more important or the most important step that we need in our digital transformation. We feel it in GALP, and our idea is to start working bottom up. The strategy is top down, but implementation must be always bottom up. And some of these people are what we call the champions, the digital champions. And these people must be carefully selected for a successful digital implementation plan. In the downstream business, and I will focus on that to share with you what are the current challenges of the GALP and the energy sector in general. Everybody knows that today we will speak about CO2 emissions, sustainability, and any energy company is no exception. We need to have a commitment to our future. And in GALP, we have a clear commitment for the future and a more sustainable future. We have key specific metrics and indicators that drives our sustainability further on. So we should not only meet what the market wants from us. An energy company needs to be sustainable. And so the focus is absolutely on energy efficiency, maintenance efficiency. And so probably these are the two first drivers when we try to implement a digital strategy in our company. I will very briefly say what are the main topics of the GALP digital transformation path. Of course, we need hardware, we need the data center, we need to have like all the data integrated and speak each other, but we also need, and I will say it again, focus on the people and give them tools to work in a better way, even for their task management tools, even to optimize their daily tasks, even to chat with other colleagues. Because everyone has a smartphone in your pockets, right? But when we go to an industry, and if we go to a refinery when thousands of workers are in the shop floor, you can imagine they don't have a smartphone, they have a simple radio, okay? So we must bet on these people and give them tools, task management, communication, and efficiency. And after that, with the data-driven, we will have everything gone in maintenance, in operations, and in energy efficiency. I really believe that in the short term, data-driven technologies will be the more cost-effective strategy for a digital transformation path. And of course, all the new technologies like the drones, the auto-guided vehicles that start to appear will be in the medium term reality in the energy business. Okay, sorry if I take it too long.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maurizio Fumagalli. I am the head of the Instrumentation and Automation department in Milan, where we have the headquarters of our company, that is Eni, an Italian oil company that is working in 67 countries around the world. This evening, I will try to give you an insight of how integration of process and electrical facilities help us in delivering this fast track project in the Egyptian area. Zohr is a field that we discovered in August 2015. It's a giant gas field in the Egyptian area, and we managed to put it in service, achieving first gas by end of December 2017. And it was a very fast-track project, very complex because it's an offshore facilities, tied back to an onshore treatment plant with a 220-kilometer pipeline. And the plant itself is capable of delivering to the Egyptian network around 2.7 billion SCF per day. I will try to give you is our feedback and what we saw as an advantage in having, instead of using a traditional configuration where we deliver control system and electrical system separated and integrated at site, to have one single contract to one company and have a full integration, and how this integration help us in delivering what we want and achieving the target. That's it for me for today.
Dear colleagues, thank you for coming. Thank you for the possibility to share with you our information and our insights. My name is Alisa Melnikova. I am working in Sibur. This is the Russian company. Actually, we are number one company, petrochemicals company in Russia. We have 26,000 people working in Sibur. We have huge capital investment projects. One of them, Zapsibneft-Him, is one of the top 5 projects in the world. And our main products are olefins and polyolefins. We have customers in more than 80 countries all over the world. This is about the company. Now about digital. Actually, Sibur started thinking about digital transformation at the same time, I think, with other companies working in the same area. It was a bit later than people started to thinking about that in banking, for example, but still. And something like 2 years ago, Sibur has started big changes inside. At that time, Sibur applied bottom-up approach, like our colleagues recommend. And what has been done is Sibur has created new digital competences in the company in such areas as advanced analytics, process digitalization, Industry 4.0, data quality specialists, and started projects in those areas where it was obvious that Sibur had some inefficiencies. So that is why all the projects gave high impact on the production efficiency. And from the one hand, the huge job has been done, but from the other hand, there were local improvements. And we feel that using technologies, new technologies, digital technologies, we can achieve much more production efficiency, commercial efficiency, and come to the holistic margin improvement in the company. So what we decided to do on the next stage. First of all, I will tell a couple of words about the instruments that we have created. We have created plenty of mobile applications to digitalize processes, like for field specialists, mobile applications for checks, for repairs. So our people get connected, they use on the daily basis these applications. And first of all, their life became more convenient. From the other hand, we started collecting data from all the processes. Because once we get data, we can improve something. This is what everybody calls culture of decision making based on data. So if we get data, then our decision making improves. So we have created these mobile applications. We have implemented the network of connected devices around our plants, like sensors, beacons, that also collect data where people can't do that. And we have created data lake where we have collected all the data from our processes. And on top of that, we applied the instruments of advanced analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. And now we really have real-time dashboards and possibility to take decisions based on the data. But the data we have got now at the moment, mostly this data collected from local systems which don't cover the whole process, end-to-end process. That is why we decided to switch to different approach and to plan new initiatives, not bottom-up, but top-down. What I mean? I don't mean that now we don't allow people to come with initiatives. And we don't mean that now only managers will set up digital projects. I mean that we will set up goals based on financial metrics and process metrics. So we started looking at the whole value chain, and we instead of thinking of how this or that technology will impact our process, we started thinking in opposite way, how our process and our financial metrics can be improved using this or that set of technologies. This is what we call top-down planning. And we think that this is a new horizon of our production efficiency. And we feel that during next 2 years, we expect that we will see a much bigger result than on the previous transformation stage. And what I think I can add that what we call digital transformation, actually it's not an exercise which It's enough to perform once and get transformated. So it's continuous process, of course. So once it started, do you hear me? Okay. So once we have started this process, it will never stop. And I think everybody here understands that it will never finish, and we have to have used to it. So this is our new life.
Yes.
Thank you.
Folks, an interesting range of companies and engagements here. Just want to get the dialogue flowing. I guess I could start here with Chairman Mao, who says a 1,000-mile journey starts with a single step. So, Nuno, how do you decide where to start on digitization? You talked about people being at the center of it. How do you choose, on each project?
Well, good question. As I said before, if we don't involve people from the beginning, I'm pretty sure that digitalization and change management will not happen. So the digital transformation path at GALP started, I will say, with three main pillars. The first one is, of course, according with the GALP strategy and vision. So we needed to envision some efficiency metrics and use digitalization as an enabler to reach them. Second one, of course, we need to compare what we have today with the best practices and the best technology in the world. Mm-hmm. So we spend around 6 months collecting all the systems that we have in the GALP whole ecosystem. We compiled all the databases, and we have easily verified that we have so many databases, even so that the data does not talk each other. And after that, we call this a maturity evaluation level. And when we talk about Industry 4.0, we can split in 6 different categories. So ranging from simple being connected or simply being digitized, up to have visibility to the information, control, automation, and we can go much longer up to auto-learning systems and so on. So first we said GALP is here, and now what is our target? And we developed 17 projects that we would like to implement in GALP, and after that we call the people and say, how do we work today? I would like to work tomorrow, being more digital. So I remember that maybe more than 200 or 300 people come in sessions separately, and we compile all data. And only after that, we have our digital strategy. And we identified 17 main projects. We started with 17 proofs of concept, trying different technologies. If it works, we simply roll out. If it's not working, try another one. So I can say that successfully we have implemented maybe 12 are in a rollout phase, 3 are still in the proof of concept phase, and 2 of them we are still looking for the solution.
Wow, okay. So it's a fast learn, fast fail, iterative...
Exactly.
Very good. And Maurizio, when you start projects on behalf of E&I, how do you decide what to digitize and what not to, and where you start your thinking?
Well, what we are doing right now is that we are focusing on 3 main subjects. One is asset integrity, meaning, for example, having the possibility of doing predictive maintenance on machine. We are focusing on improving maintenance and improving the capability of an operator to do maintenance. So augmented reality is one example of that. Mm-hmm. And the last one is improving HSE. So what we are trying to do is we prepare these packages, and we tested them on 3 pilots, and we saw that they were working on these 3 pilots. We selected 3 main fields in Italy. One was the Sannazzaro refinery, Centroli Val d'Agri, that is a big upstream in the south of Italy, and petrochemical in Taranto. We prepared these packages and we tested them on this field. And now what we are doing is that we have this inside these three main areas, we have small packages that each plant around the world in E&I they can select, and we help them to deploy this technology in their plant and to customize it to what they need in their plant. This is an example on how we are doing digitalization, in particular on existing fields. That is our main, the vast majority of of the assets we have around the world.
And just a follow on, but how do you think about CapEx and OpEx in that? If it's increasing your CapEx to digitize, but you see the long-term benefit, how does that work in your current evaluation systems?
Well, for example, if you think about predictive maintenance, the idea is to be able to do maintenance and when your plant is not working because you have already a planned stop on that. So what we are trying to do, for example, on asset integrity, is to ensure that the way in which we treat our asset and the way in which the technology help us to treat our asset will avoid to have unplanned shutdown and potentially damage to the machine we are using. This will increase the availability of the plant and the revenues that we are getting from the plant itself. Then there are other subjects because there are other points in making maintenance more efficient, more effective, so that the operator can do maintenance in less time. And there is a point related that is actually very important, and it's related to safety of the operator and safety of the plant itself.
Okay. And the way you evaluate the projects, how do you get quickly to decide if you like them or not?
We normally rely on the plant manager and the operator to tell us what they need. So we present the full package, we rely on their experience on that specific plant and on the problem they are facing to manage the plant, and then we select together with them the type of technology they need and they want to be installed in their plants.
Okay, thank you. So it was two kind of people-based strategies, but Alisa, I think you were talking about a tops-down. I guess integration is the key discussion for you, bringing disparate sources of information together. How does Sibur think about choosing which projects to start with?
Okay, integration and project selection, there are different things for me at least. So if we talk about projects, then on the previous stage of transformation and digitalization, we have put a lot of efforts to increase people's appetite to digitalization. And when we started this, there were very few projects, and we wanted everybody to come with ideas to think of these improvements, to learning digital, to piloting digital. And during 2 years, it was, I think, successful and good. Where now we have 80 open projects.
Okay.
And everything is fine with appetite in different divisions. But if we continue in this way, then we will see that it should not be like that, because digitalization is not a cheap thing. And if we look at the total cost of ownership of these technologies, if we take an account that we should not only implement technology, but we have to support it, to look at IT infrastructure, to ensure it is working, to resolve it, we will see that it's a rather expensive thing. And our next goal is to look at the whole project portfolio and to understand, first of all, which projects are dependent, because during the selection it should not happen that we select one project and exclude some project which is enabler for that project. So we have to look at the whole portfolio. And second is, we don't have to increase expenses. We want to maximize effect of digitalization. So we compare all the projects from the viewpoint of potential effect and expenses, and we want to take, first of all, maybe 20% of projects which give 80% of the effect, to concentrate on that project first, to finish them successfully, and then to take another group of projects without increasing number of employees and the budgets that we spend every year for digitalization. This is our approach to the projects. And as concerns integration, yes, you are right. This is a very big thing because digitalization is not a separate department, not a separate people, because we see that new technologies should be very closely integrated with existing technologies, maybe even old technologies, but good working in the company. And it's absolutely artificial separation. It's not that part of technologies are digital and another part is not digital. Part of people are digital and another part is not. So now we have to build the API system between people, departments, because all that people should work in the same internal ecosystem. It should not be the same people, because new level doesn't mean that everybody should come to the same profession, competence. It will not happen. But we need to integrate everything that we have good inside to align with our business goals, and then to make people work all together on the same business goals.
So I guess a key theme is people, right? I mean, is it, Schneider's very focused on technology, and we want to tell you what great technology we have and what we're building, and we're excited about it, but it seems the feeling from the panel is it's more about the people transformation. Is that, Nuno, is that how you see it, or Maurizio, as you wish?
I mean, the point is that all these projects that we are trying to use on our plants, they are designed not only to save us money, but also to improve the working life of the people that are actually working on the plants. So it's important that you get their feedback and you involve them in the transformation, because in the end they are the ones that are actually using the technology and enabling the technology to work in a certain manner and to be effective on your plant. So the fact that your operator are committed and they understand why we need to do this and the advantages of doing this and how this will change their working life, it's essential. Otherwise, we will simply put another nice toy in the plant and it will not be used.
So what have you learned about adoption and people then in that from GALP? How do you see it?
I believe that it's always trial and error. Just we need to try and give the people the tools and see. But my message is that we can develop technology, but technology by itself, it will not work. So we need to also to combine what people is expecting from the technology. So and what people want is very simple. They want a fashion tool. They want something very simple. They want things mobile. They want things fast. If technology is not fast, the new generations don't understand that. So we also need to include that, let's say, people feedback or feed forward
Yep.
in technology development. Because in the end of the day, as Maurizio said, the technology should make people's lives easier in the work and at home.
Yes. And do you see the same? And is it a generational issue in Sibur with older employees, younger employees? Is that completely different approach to digitalization?
Yes, I think it is different. It's not a generational thing, because I think that people from previous generations, they also should be in this process because they have huge experience and knowledge, and we should not replace these people with new people who maybe know some new technologies, but they don't have this kind of experience. We have to make teams from people of different qualifications, competences, and experience. In this case, it will be fully competent team to perform such difficult tasks like digitalization. But the difference is not generational. It's another type of difference. When we 10, 15 years ago talked about automation of processes, yes, at that time we told that it should be convenient for people, people will enjoy. But now when we talk about digitalization, sorry, but part of these people will disappear after implementation of these technologies. And we have to understand from the very beginning who will disappear after we implement all the technologies for unmanned plants.
Okay.
All right? And those people who will create these technologies and stay. And it's not an easy question,
Well,
I think.
it's interesting because I have maybe an optimistic view, but a view that says you move people from being operators to maybe optimizers, that in the time that you don't have to spend doing, you can then, using these tools, spend more time improving. But that may be let's say, an optimistic view. Is this about cutting people cost, or is it about optimizing the way people work? What do you think?
I would like to add just two things. I don't believe that this is a generation question, because I have people with 30 years experience in refining that is totally open to develop new technology and new mobile devices, and I have training people that simply don't care. So
Okay.
I don't think that is a generation question. I believe that new generations are early adopters of new technology, but it's the way we're born. If we have our when we are kids with a mobile phone, it's different than 20 years ago. But I don't feel that there is a generation question in adoption to technology. And I also don't see the digital transformation a way to decrease headcount or the number of FTEs. I think that we can change the daily work of our employees, and I'm glad to hear you that we will transform our people to be more efficient.
Yeah.
I like that vision.
Well, the point is that what we are trying to do using and adding this technology is to help the operator to do their job, and to do it right, and to do it quickly. So we are adding digitalization and project on digitalization because what we want is that they stop doing things the old way, and that they find a new way of doing things in a better way, more efficiently, and helping them avoiding making mistakes. For example, when they are doing maintenance, just as an example. I saw around some augmented reality that you develop, and that is a very good example on how you can help an operator to do the job he has to do, giving the operator all the information at the right time and allowing the operator to perform his task, helping him in doing it right away and right the first time.
So that one of the things that we're showing here is how we propose to bring together the power systems and the process systems, but the heart of that is about integration of information to help people to be more knowledgeable, particularly around maintenance and startup. Do you see the value in that? Is that an obvious thing to do? And if so, what should we be thinking about how to implement, and what are the barriers that you can see to get us there? You want to start?
Yeah, please.
No, what we saw is that when you integrate electrical system and control system, the amount of information that you can get from the electrical system is huge, and that will help you to have a better maintenance. It will help you in developing project because instead of running thousands of cable from the control system to the electrical system to, for example, run a motor control center, you can run a couple of fibers and that will work exactly in the same way, even better. The point is that this approach, in the way we see it, will have to be further developed, because as I was discussing with some of your colleagues, it would be incredibly good for us to have a system that can be connected and can be modified and configured without having a huge knowledge about it, without being an engineer, so that it can be a small modification in the plant can be easily done maybe by an operator using a specific tool for that. And during development instead, it would be nice to have a system that can, for example, during commissioning, can do some auto configuration, because that will cut down the time to market that we normally have from installing, commissioning, and putting it into operation.
I would like to give, to say 3 examples that I believe that integration is not only good, but it's probably one of the most important things in the gross margin of an energy company. The first is when we integrated all the mechanical data with the process data. Any predictive maintenance algorithm only works well or only can learn if it got the data from failures, vibration, mechanical data, but also data from the process, like flows, temperature, pressures. So this is the first example. The second one, and is only when we have the whole value chain view and an integrated view can we optimize that whole value chain. We need to start from the supply, the trading, and after the planning, the scheduling, the operations, the real-time operations, and after the sales. Only if we can integrate all these data, it's a real value for a company. And finally, if mainly in the power and the electrical market, we know that this is a very liquid market with very small variations in price every second. Yep. So it's very important if a company has the whole data from the supply and demand, but the different ways how to produce electric power, or from natural gas, or from import, export from the net, we can really profit a lot from the small variations in the market. But for that, we need to have all the data integrated. It's not needed to be a real data layer or a real data lake, but we need to have the whole value chain data speak each other.
And I think you started by talking about value chain integration was the key.
Yes, I will add a couple of things. I agree with the colleagues, and yes, we are trying to collect together all the data, like from production, from purchasing, from sales, from marketing, from logistics, and on top of that, our dream is to use predictive analytics and different tools, analytical tools, not using only our data, but to take into account the data from those who sell us equipment, and data of our clients who buy our polyethylene and polypropylene, because only analyzing the whole data lakes, we understand the level of quality of the end products produced by our clients, and we can increase the data quality, correcting something on the client side, on our side.
Well, and it's an interesting point, isn't it? Because if you, I have a view that digitization is being driven faster in the consumer industries, the B2C, and and everything they do, whatever I buy, they say, did you like it? Give me the feedback, right? So I mean, could the person buying your polyethylene pellets be asking, how was it for you? And I mean, because your supply chain is from Schneider hopefully selling you a transmitter through to you selling gasoline and all points in between, or a nice coffee in a Sibur gas station, or some such.
This we don't dream about, to ask those people who use plastic cups.
Okay, yes, okay.
But at least we don't sell in retail. We sell to the companies who produce that plastic cups. And at least we want to understand whether we can analyze their data and our data with our analytic instruments and understand how to increase quality for the end user.
Now, I've seen with one of your petrochemical competitors that they were getting, not digitally, but into the supply chain, for example, car manufacturers who were building plastic pieces of a car to understand what they really needed so they can change their composition. I mean, it's... well, I mean, I guess it drives me, as I think it through, how big an impact could digitization have on our industry? I mean, if you look at the enormous change that Amazon has made, that Airbnb has made, that Uber has made, I mean, could the change in our industry be that big, or you don't think so, and why? What?
Well, if you think, for example, just to give you an example on what we can do, for example, with digitalization, having an integrated system connected to the net will allow us to have, if we have a problem or if we need to do some specific maintenance, it will allow us to connect your technician to our system and allow you to help us remotely. This could not be done 10, 15 years ago. 10, 15 years ago in a remote location, we would fly a specialized technician to try to fix the problem. Nowadays, what we are trying to do is, before flying in a technician that may be needed anyway, we normally allow them to connect to the system remotely, do some checks remotely. Maybe they can assist us in fixing the problem and start the plant again. Worst case, if that is not possible, they will come into the plant prepared, knowing what they have to do to fix it. So this is an example on how having a digital connection and having integrated system can help you in being effective in running a plant and running the maintenance in the plant.
I agree with you if we are talking about the midstream side, but when we go to the customer side, because in the end of the day, all of us are energy or product provider. Mm-hmm. And the way that the digital can also impact our customers is exactly to give them tools to have feedback and to make them closer to the company. It can go very simply from apps in your mobile device. Just, of course, I will not ask you if you are happy with your diesel or not, okay? But of course, we want to understand what is more comfortable for our customers. It's if they want price, if they want location, if they want to have also at full speed or at full diesel. That kind of feedback, it's important, and digitalization can help to put the customers closer to the energy providers.
I mean, if you look at how disrupted the electrical industry is now with intermediaries who sell electricity, buy from other folks, it makes me wonder. I wonder whether on my iPad I can buy polyethylene and I just go to the market or go to eBay and say who can sell. You know, it's we're in a commodity space. It does seem like the learning from other industries is you have to be quick on digitization, otherwise you become left behind. But it seems like us three are adopting. Final thoughts, anything on what have you done, if you're willing to share, that you wouldn't do again? I mean, well, you can save your personal life stories, but but digitally, I mean, what have you learnt from the work you've done in the last year on digitization, and what would you advise others to bypass, to do?
I can start. I would not did it again to start with thousands of projects at the same time. And to overload our project pipeline, it's crazy and it will not work. And second is that for digitalization work in a company, and we are talking about GALP, E&I or Sibur, it's big companies, so the IT infrastructure must be ready for digitalization. We cannot do to start thinking to have like mobile devices if we don't have a data center, wired connections, and our IT infrastructure is ready for that. So the pace of the two must be parallel, otherwise it will not work.
Thank you. Maurizio, what do we do differently? Or what would you not do again?
Not do again, I believe, trying to force on into our field something that they say it's top down. Involving the operator, it helps having things that works and having projects that will be successful. We tried to force a couple of projects because we believed they were worth, but in the end they didn't work because the operator were not committed to use it and to make it work. The other point is to be flexible in implementing digitalization, because at least for us as E&I, the vast majority of our plants are very old facilities. So when we are applying digitalization, we need to reduce the CapEx because maybe it's an old field. You need to adapt your solution to what is available, and you need to be flexible in what you do to make it work. Like, for example, installing wireless solution that can help you reducing the CapEx and achieving the target of having a digital transformation that works.
Thank you. And Alisa has moved from a completely different industry, from banking into petrochemicals. What do you observe in the petrochemicals, and what have you learned that you would improve in the last year?
Okay, I would say that what we saw in your examples about Airbnb, Alibaba, and in banking also, their main disrupt is that they haven't changed values that they sell. They sell the same things, but they have changed the way of delivery of these values to the clients, and this was their disrupt. What I see in our area, we don't sell anything in retail, and I don't think that during next several years something will change in the way of delivery of our products to our clients. But I think that our disrupt is different. Our disrupt may happen in the value creation. What I mean is that when we understand how to use data, first of all, to improve the quality of our products, and on this next stage, if we manage to apply chemical models, physical models, and mathematical models and technologies to the same data, then we will be able to create new materials. Not only more to increase quality of the existing materials, but in this case, somebody in our industry will create new materials, and this will be a real disrupt for everybody.
Very good. Folks, I guess the feedback here then is you need your IT systems ready. You need to be listening rather than obliging people to adopt. I guess adoption seems a key theme along this panel, and it makes human sense, doesn't it, to be looking at adopt. Flexibility and I think the power of feedback, which we see very much in the consumer industry. Feedback every time I can't leave a hotel without 10 minutes later getting an email saying how was it for you, but it's a feedback mechanism, and everybody in this industry is selling something to somebody. I mean, we're trying to eventually sell to you, but you're selling gasoline to me and plastics to folks who make cups that I buy. We have to be listening to our feedback. I think digitization's here to stay. As Alisa was saying, it's a never-ending journey rather than a destination, and Schneider wants to play a big part. If you could maybe just join me in a round of applause for our three guests for joining in, and appreciate your involvement. Thank you very much.